All right, so yeah, welcome back again. All right, so in the last class, we tried to learn how to implement add to cart whenever we add something and we enter it, we actually see it on the cart using context API. Okay, so we see, so each amount is 200, and when I add it, it's giving me 600 here. So I can add another maybe two amounts of this, which is 400. Add it, will give me 600, 400 here. So we want to know how do we calculate this total, and better still, design our cards to look much better. Okay, so we go back to our table. So our table has total here, which we can create another cell, TD. So this is actually a table, and I can use it to calculate the total value within that table. So this is, I'm going to bring out an array of cards, that is the cards items. So these cart items which have imported here using context API, we're going to use it to calculate that. So I have my cart items. So cart items is already an array. So let's I want to. So I can say cart items dot reduce. So I'm going to reduce it, but first of all, before I reduce it, I need to bring out something from the cart item. Okay, I want to bring out the data from the cart item because my cart item contains objects, right? So let's see, for example, on let's just see an example using this. So let's say we have an array. We have an array of objects. So this array contains objects of, let me say, name, use my name like Frank, and age 10. So this object ends here. Probably we have another object. So let me just copy this to change, copy, and paste it here. So maybe the age of this person is 12. Okay, maybe another person is 12. So I have this array. So let me assign it to a variable. Let's say this is cat equal to this. Okay. So when I do, if I want to bring out the whole data there, I can see cat has two items. So I can say cat dot map. So maybe when I map it, I can call it C, and I want to bring out C dot age. Okay, C dot age. So this will return the age for me, giving me the value of the age. So if I want to get the total amount of the age, I can actually go and use like reduce, and I can reduce it with A comma B such that it will give me A plus B at an initial value of 0. This 0 is very important. Okay, so that will return the total 22. So this is what we are going to implement for that cart. Okay, so back to our array. So let's close this. Back to our array. So I have my cart items dot map, just as I have shown there, dot map item, and I want it to bring out item dot count. So item.count, and I will reduce it just exactly what I done there. Reduce it by 8. It mustn't be a comma B. I can actually say so. The initial value of 0 is equally very important that I have that. So when I save this, it's going to give me that. So let's go back to our app, and we can actually see the total here to be 5. So if I come here and I add, you can see that I've added 2 of these. If I add now, okay, if I add, I will also add 2 of that, which is giving me, so it's giving me a total of 9. So let's refresh and add. So I have 1, I have 1. So total 2. I have another 1, total 3. Add another 1, total 4. I add 2, which will be 2, and I have the total 6. So you can see that that is so if I come here and I add 1, okay, so it has given me what is happening now is adding up this and this, okay, with the previous value, is adding it up. And whereas what I did was to add um another value of it, but this we can actually correct, because what is happening here is looking at the previous value of what I have and is not adding it up, right? So I can decide to destructure this when I'm doing that. Okay, I can destructure it. So using spread operator. Okay, so let's look back and see what happens now. So add to 5. Okay, map.reduce is not a function as the value is not iterable. Okay, so this closing should have happened here. Actually. This closing should have happened here. So okay. All right. So 6, 6, 6, 6, 2, 4. Okay, so I think that works well. So when I add 2 more for this one, still 400, I give it 1. It's 200. I give it 3. It's 600. So our arrays is now calculating well and is adding up the entire thing well. Okay, so we can now go back and do the same thing. You can just create this again, do the same thing for the amount. So I can simply change this to amount. So that will also give us the total of the amount. So if I go back there, I can see the total amount that we have there. So if I add this, it should give me 3,600. If I have just one, it's giving me 3,600 because I added one of it. Okay. Now, another thing you might notice too is why is it that this is, if I have HTML, why can't I add up all the HTML or the JavaScript to be one? Why am I multiplying? So if I'm adding something of the same item to cart, it will just be duplicating it like that. So that is, we have to sort our cards with condition, and that is what we are going to actually do next, to sort our card with condition. So to handle that, we have to go to our add cart item and modify this so that we'll be able to update that very well. Okay, so we're going to create a hook here. We're going to create a hook called item name, call it item name, and set item name, set item name. So this hook will actually be use states, and the initial value of this hook will be set to title. So the title we imported from our cart will be the initial value of this hook. So we're going to modify this, adding value to our cart. Okay, so we're going to check where an index exists. Remember, what we are trying to solve is this problem here, where HTML is multiplying a couple of times. It could have been one, and then adding a total of the number to each one, the same thing, so that we don't multiply values within our array. So if the ones that are the same, you should be able to come out as the same. Okay, so um all right. So we are going to look at cart in. I'm going to declare a variable called cart item index to check whether an index of an item actually exists. Okay, I can call it item index. Item index to check if the item, the index of that item actually exists. So we have index of, but this one we are using find index. Okay, so we use find index to look at that. So we look at our cart item dot find index. Okay, cart items dot find index. So our cart item is actually an array. Find index. So we are looking for index of an item. Index of an item, of course, such that item, I can actually look at the name of the item. I can say item dot name, okay, is the same thing as, is similar to item name. So if the name of the item dot name is the same thing as item name, which is my title, okay. So if it is the same, mind you, this is this is like a truthy value, okay, a falsy value, a conditional statement, okay. So if that exists, and you know that if something does not exist, it's going to give me -1 if it does not exist, okay. If it exists, it will actually give me the index. So if it does not exist, it will return -1 to me. So let's look at if it does not exist. So if item index, which is this number, okay, is not the same thing as -1. So if it is not -1, that means it exists, okay. If it is not -1, that means it exists. So if the object coming in already exist. What am I going to do? What I'm going to do is that I'm going to update the new, I'm going to update that very index. I'm going to update the count of that very index. So now, how am I going to handle this, right? I can create a new variable called let's new cart items. I'm just use, I'm using let because I don't want to assign it. If I use const, it means I must assign. With const declaration of variable, it means you must assign a value to that variable. But when you're using let, it can allow you to leave it as undefined. Okay, so if that is, if it exists, okay, what do I want to do? I want the new cart items to be equal to, so I'm going to, if it's not equal to -1, that means it exists, right? So I want the new cart item to be equal to cart items dot map. So cart items dot map. So I'm going to map to it and I'm going to pass it two variables. I can call it item, local scope variables, and index. Let's call it items and index. Okay. So such that if index, if index is the same thing as item index, if index is the same thing as item index, so this is a conditional statement. So I'm going to use scenario operator. So what do I want it to do? I want it to get me the item using rest parameter, get me the item, and also add count. So I'm going to update count. So you're going to get me the item, which is the name of the item, and then count. I'm going to also update the count. And how am I going to update the count? I will now say item.count. I will now say item.count plus input var, okay? Item.count.input var. So I will update it to be that. And that is not the only thing that I'm updating. Okay. I will also update the amount. Okay. I will also update the item.amount. Okay. I will also update the item.amount to, which is amount actually. So this should be amount. I will update amount to be item.amount. So I will add it item.amount plus input var times amount. So I'm going to just update it with this, just this thing that I have here. So I want to put that in parentheses so that it can treat it different. Okay. So it's going to update it to be that, and yeah. Okay, so I think that is the end. Otherwise, of course, I have to give out something here. Otherwise, just return the item for me. Okay, so that is just a fallback to that. Okay, so now what will be my else if this statement, if this condition is not being met? Else if it does not meet the condition, what am I going to do? So new cards will actually be this. Okay, so new cards item should be equal to, I have to actually delete this here, should be equal to cards, but I have to delete this here. Anyway, so new cart item should be equal to cart where title should be title, so title is going to be title item blah 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 blah. Okay. So okay, at the end of our expression, what are we returning? Set cart items will now be the new cart items. Okay, so let's see whether that works. Okay, I think we have to change this to title, not name, because the value I gave it here is title, not. Okay, so we verify. We try to add this multiple times. Check. Oh, it's 8, and the total amount is 16. What I have there is 16. So if I add this, it's 1. And I add this again, this updates to 9, and this is giving me the total. So that's fine. I add 3 of this. I include that. You can see this updates now to 4, and this gives me 6. So 2,600, and it's calculating it well. So my card is fully functional. Okay, so yeah, that is it. Finally, let's just design this card to look better as the way a table should look. So our card is actually here. So let's try to design. Let's use CSS module. Call it table or cards dot module dot CSS. So can now see the table and what are the things that I want to do in this table. I want the table to collapse, so border collapse, just say border collapse. I can choose the width of the table to be like 80%, and I want the table to be in the center. Can give it margin auto. Okay, so I will look at the table tier. That is the table row to have a border. So the border it can have maybe 5 pixel, 5 pixel double green, something like that. Yeah, so can choose the variation that I want. Get something vertical like that. Okay, so that's table TD and that's table TH can have a padding for about 1 rep. Can say text align to the center. So just trying to style the table to look better. So back to my cards, and I can import the table by calling it styles. Can call it anything. Can give it my name. But from dot slash cat dot. So inside here, I'll now give it a class name. Okay, I can now say frank.table. So inside that class, inside the style that I've imported, there's an item, it's a class called table. So that's why we say that table. So if I do that, you can actually see that that is there. So let's give the color to be white. I think white will make it to be much more visible. Okay, so something else I can do is text align, can make it capital letter and can make this to have this color. So that will be much better. And you can see that I'm seeing the total. Okay. So for the T foods, we can give the T foods a different shading. So for the T foods, dot level T foods. Okay, so this color that can be the background color. So background color should be that. Then the color of the text is color. Okay, but not anyhow black. Can be the black. It's shades of so just to make it to look different. Okay. So and my T foods need to have Naira there. So can include Naira, my T foods. Come there and remember the Naira symbol is this. As I said, you can also use an icon. So you can just put it there. So just some space so text can breathe. Good to give things some breathing space around. So that gives me that, and if I add more, if I add more of this, add more of this, more of this, go back to my cards, total item is 25, the amount is 5,000. Calculate this, you can see that it's updating it very, very. So simple way, in the next class, we are going to look at how do we delete something from the cards. Okay, now we have the cards, how can we delete something from these cards, and also how can we even store this in local storage so that whenever we refresh, our data doesn't go out, because whenever we refresh something, our data goes. But if I'm still within my app, it doesn't go unless there is a refresh. So it doesn't go out, okay? Unless a refresh happens, which makes it to go. But if a refresh does not happen, that is, I'm just doing data rendering, okay? It stays there. Yeah, so that is it. That's what we're going to look at in the next class. Be there.